Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most damn near perfect Godzilla movies to release during my lifetime. Alright, a lot to confront here, but let's start with my initial take on this film. I'm going to apologize to you guys, but initially, I wasn't too big on this movie. I slept on this movie hard. When this movie was announced and I saw a first look at it, I found it to be kind of deflating they didn't stick with the Godzilla 2000 suit. I mean, I wanted to see that suit have more of a run than just 2 movies. However, looking back and realizing that I didn't know the context of the film, nor did I know the portrayal of Godzilla, I gotta say redesigning Godzilla was the right move, due to the fact that we have a far more evil incarnation in this film. Let's face it, this is the most evil incarnation of Godzilla since the original film. For once, you actively see not just the destruction, but the trauma that Godzilla's attacks leave on the civilians. Because of this is already way more than we saw in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Anytime I try to reflect on my first viewing of this film, I don't remember a whole lot. Other than the fact of what I said about the suit, I just feel like my attention was mainly on Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla due to the fact that there was a marathon between both movies showing for the first time in the US back to back. However, it was some 11 years later I'd fully give this movie a chance, and I would just think, whoa. I slept hardcore on a diamond of a film, and you gotta understand, it's more than just the battle sequences in this film. It's the sheer fact that we have a very gutsy portrayal of some classic kaiju in a different way. And I think maybe this was another reason why at one point I was less interested in this film. When I realized it had King Ghidorah, Mothra, I was just kind of more about the new. I wanted to see the new things. Mechagodzilla, Orga. I wanted a brand new kaiju in the next film to follow up Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. But looking back, none of that matters. Because while it's a reused roster, and a revival of Baragon who hadn't been seen in 33 years, everything about this film feels brand new, and that's what I applaud about it. It's one thing having Godzilla as an antagonist, and Mothra and Baragon as the protagonists of the film, add on the fact that you gotta successfully sell it to the viewer. But the idea of pitching a long-time iconic villain as a protagonist on paper feels ludicrous. Think about how far Toho has just layered King Ghidorah with so many different backgrounds, from an alien responsible for the extinction of life on Venus or Mars depending on which version you watch, a creature from the future left behind before the Castle Bravo testing, a mystic super beast that has returned, then the kaiju that destroyed the dinosaurs, transitioning to a hero. But the way King Ghidorah is portrayed is done correctly, making him smaller, weaker, and overall more benevolent. Somehow Ghidorah just qualifies as the ultimate underdog, in a way I never thought was possible. It's just that this Godzilla in this film is so evil and soulless. The way he eradicates a doomed from the start Baragon, it just seals the deal that this Godzilla is more than we've seen before. This isn't just some anti-hero Godzilla like we've seen in the past 5 Godzilla films. Even in Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla wasn't this wicked. Furthermore, what's wild is the sheer fact that this movie almost wasn't a thing. You see, after Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla released, plans for a US Godzilla movie were not exactly dead. This wasn't going to be connected to the '98 film, but rather just a soft reboot. But this would actually serve as a true sequel to Godzilla 2000. Titled Godzilla Reborn, proposed actors such as Bruce Campbell, Jamie Lee Curtis, Christopher Lee were just a few names that were on the table. However, this is a project that never was. Ultimately, GMK was the result of Toho's brand new eventual project. While cast-wise Godzilla Reborn seemed great, part of me is glad that GMK didn't get pushed to the side. But that's not all for the history of this film. What's interesting about this movie itself is the fact of how many variations of kaiju this film went through at one point. Since the inception of this film, it seems like the idea of it was to make sure to bring back classic kaiju. At one point, Varan, Anguirus, and Baragon all were the guardian monsters. But in the end, it would end up being the more marketable Mothra and King Ghidorah getting the roles. Storyline-wise, despite resetting our continuity and timeline for this film, it is pretty fleshed out. This film doesn't get the criticism that I gave towards Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla because I can follow along with the storyline and characters pretty easily here. One of the greatest aspects that this film excels at is the special effects. They are just extraordinary. The battle sequence, especially near the end, and they're just on another level, and present some of the greatest battle sequences in the Millennium Era that it has to offer. As you watch kaiju and humans work together to attempt to stop Godzilla, as a viewer, I'm on the edge of my seat all the way through the end of this movie. And the soundtrack is a banger from the moment that you see that title card. All new original pieces, exclusive to this one film. Allow me to play some samples.
Godzilla has seen us!
It just continues to draw me in as the film goes on. And what this does throw back is going back to the original film, just using it as a jumping point. For you see, in this movie, Godzilla's attack and death in the original is all alluded to. However though, the mythical beast has returned. Possessed by the lost restless souls that were killed during the Pacific War. Which really separates this Godzilla and puts an amazing twist on the backstory of this new incarnation of Godzilla. The only hope for humanity is the guardian monsters, in hopes they will return to defend the future of the country of Japan. However, each fails to match the power that is this evil Godzilla. But that's not saying that their efforts don't mean nothing, because it means a lot from an attack point. Let me just say that Godzilla's arrival in this film, the moment you first see him, the energy is completely different. It just screams. This Godzilla won't be anything like you saw in the last movie. And I gotta say, I love this point of view as Godzilla looks down on the terrified people, only for the worst to happen to them then. A reminder of the horrors of the past. The writing and the portrayal of this film just absolutely has you cheering for the guardian monsters. And with each that falls, more hope just slips. But in the end, evil is defeated. And I applaud how this movie by no means makes Godzilla even look weak. If you want a movie that's a treat storyline-wise visually, then this is your movie. And I actually care about Yuri and her father and the overall intentions that they have. One little detail that I always appreciated about this film is when Yuri runs to her father, he reminds her to step back. This is due to the radiation levels. The fact that this is brought up actually matters because I feel like this is a little detail that's kind of overlooked in some Godzilla movies. But this is a film that's anything like most Godzilla films. It's a beacon of a film that just stands out in my collection, due to how distinctively different it is. It's a prime example of how you can retool something the audience is familiar with, but not damage the integrity of the character. This is the one Millennium film that often I feel like doesn't need a sequel, even though it kind of teases one near the end. It just stresses that Godzilla is immortal by nature. So here's the deal, I'm gonna go on and leave some of this movie to the imagination. If you are a new fan and you've never seen this film, I urge you to please check it out, because it is definitely one of them that's in the top 5 of my all-time Godzilla films. This is a pure S-tier film, and it's aged significantly well even though I slept on it when it came out. Add in the fact this film also acknowledges the events of the '98 film, even if it is a joke.
The New York attack was Godzilla, right? That's what all the American experts claim. But our guys here have doubts.
Next stop though, we have the first of 2 films that actually connect to each other in the Millennium era. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, featuring the return of yet another classic kaiju, but with a new twist on this character. Like, subscribe, join me next time.